Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The motion for today's debate is this House supports strict state secularism in Western liberal democracies. Representing the proposition, we have the team from Bosnia, and on the opposition we have the team from Peru. From the proposition side, our speakers are the first speaker, Marija Malić, second speaker, Milica Pušara, third speaker, Hristina Mrša, reply speaker, Milica Pušara, and on the opposition side, our speakers are first speaker, Leandro Guevara, second speaker, Briana Felice, third speaker, Fatima Sedano, reply speaker, Briana Felice. Each speaker will have 8 minutes to deliver their speech. The first and last minute of each speech is considered protected time, during which points of information may not be offered. The judges will signal the end of protected time at the 1 minute mark, after which points of information can be offered, and will signal the return to protected time at the 7 minute mark. At the 8 minute mark, they will give a double clap or ring to signal the end of the speech. Additionally, there will be 3 claps or rings at 8:15, and the judges will stop listening at 8:30. Best of luck to both teams. I now hand over the floor to our chair judge.
Okay, thank you very much. So, anything anyone wants to clarify before we begin? Then, please welcome the first speaker for the proposition.
So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Dear judges panel, it is an honor to debate in today's motion. So I will start off my speech by stating a few points by stating a few trends that we have realized in today's world. And I would like to say that we are seeing a lot of debate about abortion laws in Western liberal democracies, where opposition mostly comes from religious communities, and we see this as a really terrible thing happening in today's world. The second thing that we have noticed and is truly important and relevant in today's debate is that certain scientific fields are being, for example, embryonic stem cell research faces also significant opposition from religious communities, and we see this as a big problem to further developing science. And the third point that I want to mention at the beginning of my speech is that the USA, that is, for example, that is namely secular state. If you want to be a politician in that country, you have to say that you are of a certain religion, preferably of a Christian religion. I will divide my speech in stating our characterization for today's debate, then stating a setup, then I will tell you which stakeholders we have chosen, and then we will present you why each and every stakeholder in today's debate then benefits on our side of the House, where we propose strict state secularism. We have seen that secularism, the idea of separation of religion from a state, has failed, since there were no fines for people who did not there were no fines if you don't respect the idea of secularism. And then that's the reason why we propose stricter measures, what do we mean by our characterization? First of all, we have realized that in the Western liberal democracies, where we want this idea to be implemented, that there is a rising number of atheists and agnostic people. Those are people who do not believe in God. The second point of characterization, there is increasing number of religious communities that differ from the main religion of a state. And the third point of our characterization is the division between strongly established religions and, for example, in Christianity there are 45,000 denominations. And the fourth point of our characterization is that people who do not belong to the main religion population of a certain state feel alienated and they're suffering inequality in all aspects of life, for example, school life, work, politics, and etc. As a consequence, and thank you, I will accept your POI.
So your solution to people feeling separated is to take away the right to wear a hijab or feel comfortable expressing who they are.
Thank you for a perfect POI. What we want to say by this, people in Western liberal democracies who are, for example, in minority, and thank you for the idea of hijab, because those people already feel alienated in that society, and what opposition wants to do is put another stamp on their head because another religion would be predominant over them. Thank you. Since we have named these 4 points of characterization of Western liberal democracy, this perfectly fits into our case. How? As a consequence of those 4 trends, we need a change, which in this debate would be strict state secularism. In our setup and what we consider under strict state secularism, firstly, places of worship would not be affected by this motion. Secondly, we would ban highly controversial state funding. We would ban highly controversial state funding of religious schools. And our third point of characterization is no, thank you. Is that we would prohibit religious symbols in public spaces, and the fourth point of our characterization is that we would ban state religion in Western liberal democracies. For example, having a main religion alienates citizens who don't follow recognized or the main religion. Second of all, it symbolically puts these individuals in a lower power, as I answered the POI, and it reinforces oppressive social hierarchy. And the fourth point is that having a state religion goes against the principle of being neutral and fair. We have 3 main stakeholders that would benefit from implementation of strict state secularism, as we named it in our setup, and those are religious communities, non-religious communities, and governments and politics. How the main point here is to explain how religious communities would benefit from implementing strict state secularism, even though it kind of sounds counterintuitive, and I will show you how it is actually not. First of all, it is really important to make a distinction between religion and faith. And definition of religion is a personal or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. And faith, what is actually faith? Faith, on the other hand, is a strong or unshakable belief in God without a proof or evidence. And here we are to say that the core point of each and every religion is faith, and that is something that would not be touched by this policy. So, yes, I will accept your review.
How can you say that you're not going to touch faith when you're literally banning Muslims from being able to pray in public and using?
Thank you so much. 5 main postulates of Islamic religion, they are basically saying that you do not need to display any sign in public in order to show your belief in God. And the same thing goes for Christianity. For example, there is a Bible verse that says, "Oh man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of thee, but to do just and to love mercy and to walk humbly with God." Yes, we can see from this verse that the God tells his people to love fairness, show kindness, and walk quietly with him. We do not need to have any signs shown in public to show our personal connection with the God. By this aspect of religious communities, which will be further explained which will be explained by the rest of our speakers. No, I will not accept your POI. Religious people and how religion would actually benefit, since a religion is kind of getting impure by mixing with politics. By having this idea of strict state secularism, religion itself would go back to its purity. And the second stakeholder in this debate, which is non-religious people, or non-believers, they would actually benefit, since we can see that there is, as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a rising trend of non-religious people in our societies, or people who are atheists or agnostic who don't believe in God, and they make up to 25 to 50% in these Western liberal democracies, and having a state religion directly impacts their lives for no reason. And if currently we are focusing on important issues such as racism, classism, or sex discrimination, and those are predominant in our discourse, but we need to focus on these such as a religion, which need to be solved in order to achieve liberty and justice for all. And the rest of stakeholders will be explained by other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 8 minutes, 17 seconds. Just give the judges a few moments to finish up our notes before we announce the next speaker. Okay, just a quick clarification for speakers in order to make it very clear for the judges to understand where points of information are being offered. If you wish to offer a point of information, please stand up and say point of information. Don't just raise your hand sitting down, then remain standing until it's either accepted or declined. And if it's accepted, you can make the point standing up rather than sitting down. Just helps the judges to really clearly identify who's offering. Thank you very much. We had the first speech for the proposition. Now let's welcome the first speaker for the opposition.
After surviving Auschwitz, Primo Levi wore a Star of David every single day of his life. His embrace of religious symbol was not in spite of being a victim of bigotry, but because of being a victim of Nazism. Team Peru will protect the dignity of individuals by embracing that religion is part of our identity and thus unnegotiable. We'll do this by 3 lines of analysis. First, on the principle of identity, 2 in religious minorities in Europe, 3rd on social backlash in US, presented by Brianna later in the speeches. Before that, what are we specifically supporting? We defend the status quo of Western liberal democracies, meaning a separation of the church and the state. We support religious freedom and will continue to give tax benefits to religious institutions, as we already do with schools and charity. Now let's directly engage with what first prompt has said, but before, how does their site actually look like? The world of Team Bosnia is one where French girls are denied the right to education because they wear a hijab, where people can't pray in their state job, taking for the safety of their family, or where small churches struggle to get to the end of the month and comfort their followers. I dare Team Bosnia to actually defend the full scope of their extremist policy. Now, 3 lines of refutations for their case. First, in that people feel alienated. I think this is just not true. 1, atheists probably do not care. They just say that God doesn't exist, and therefore are not affected by the narrative. 2, different religions feel more alienation in proposition when I actually cannot express it in the first place. But 2, why would you feel offended? If I'm a Muslim, I'm not necessarily offended by Christians, because in both scenarios I can pray my God and I can access all the benefits of religion, and through this third, I believe that other citizens are not affected. Why? If they don't care, this is symmetric, but if they care more about free speech. Notice that in democracies, we have Republicans and Democrats sharing ideas and attacking at each other. This means that we ban political parties. Again, in the base case that they mean minorities, and they just didn't say it, religion is valued through the society and the socialization we have, right? When I have counterweight, like saying that my mother wear a cross and she's a good person, or my friend is Christian and he is not homophobic, I do not see perceived religion as intrinsically harmful, but actually something good for people's life. The idea that religion push harmful ideas, it's either symmetric, because religion still exists, and the idea that, like, passages that are really harmful in the Bible, I believe that there are passages like, you should not eat all, or make bread, and it's ridiculous to assume that just because it's in the Bible, it should be everywhere. That the third point is that the faith, truly, we need faith religion is expressed through faith. I need my hijab to feel that I'm actually accessing God and actually feel good. With this out of the way, the first argument then on the principle of identity. We will prove why it's unmoral for the state to target religious identity. Firstly, how does strict state secularism target religious identity? We would never ban queer couples from holding hands in public. The reason for this is we don't believe that the state has the right to force people to hide their identities. This is precisely what PROP is doing. They send the public the following messages: that religion is not welcome in public spaces. Religion not being welcome is telling a young Muslim girl that her hijab is unacceptable as she walks on the first day of school. It's telling the porters of David Stars that honoring their ancestors' struggles makes them deserving of nasty stares and a feeling of discomfort in the pit of their stomach. Feeling rejection for having their religion is the new standard. 2, that religion is considered harmful for public spaces. Freedom of speech is only limited when it harms others. Your rights end when another begins. Hence, this leads to a perception that religion is harmful to the public sphere by their mere presence. The third message is minimizing religion importance. Religion is now not considered a matter that can and does affect your values and lifestyle. It's similar to queer couples being told that what happens in their bedroom should stay there, minimizing a loving relationship to something irrelevant. God can be as impactful to people's life, and they should be able to show it. The reason why sending these messages is so utterly disgusting is that it constitutes a fundamental part of the identity of its followers. 5 reasons this is true. First, history of persecution. For groups that has a story of persecution, showing religious symbols in public is a way to honor their history and show the world that they could not be erased. Jews who survived the Holocaust and Islam who escaped persecution in Turkey and Bulgaria should be allowed to express their right to be alive. 2, sharing duty. For some religions, preaching is a fundamental element of being a follower. Jehovah's Witnesses have the Great Commission, which tells them to share Christ's words with everyone to be in a greater level of glory. Expressing their faith has immeasurable consequences for them. Third, meaning. The average life lacks meaning. You sell your soul working all day, do overtime for a miserable salary, and have little to no hope of improvement. Religion restores your purpose by saying that God loves you and your life should be dedicated to Him. Fourth, hope. The average human existence is filled with moments of deep despair and duress. Religion promises a good ending to it all, eternal salvation, which motivates you to keep going in the worst of circumstances. Fifth, community. You don't just wear your rosary because of Christ, but also because it was from your mother's bloodline. Religion is intertwined with your family and community. It's part of what brings you together and your daily communications, i.e. Hanukkah celebrations in Jewish communities. This is why religion is a crucial part of your identity. It's unacceptable for the state to say that such a core element of what you are cannot be displayed in public. We would never accept a similar policy which targets sexual orientation or nationality. There's no reason why religion should be the only part of people's identity that gets this horrible treatment. How can you defend that?
Okay, so I want to emphasize that places of worship are unaffected by our side of the house. Religious communities still have a space for worship, which are all equally treated on our side of the house. So your point on the community doesn't stand.
2 responses to this POI. First, we explained how the messages of the state directly affect people because it minimizes their religion. It says that they cannot, that this is harmful and constantly affects them. But second of all, notice how people depend on expressing their faith through this, for example, having your hijab or expressing that you have the cross of your mother. This is affected by the word of Team Bosnia. They have to accept that. The conclusion then of all of this is very simple. Regardless of your identity, you have a right to it. We allow a gay couple to kiss in the middle of a conservative town in Texas, even if it's deeply upsetting for the people there, because we recognize that you should be allowed to show your identity regardless of what people feel. This means that the argument does not depend on any practical consequences that Bosnia may bring, just on the intrinsic right to be yourself. Notice that since we have proven why religious identity is such an important principle to protect, the bar to limit this right should be set incredibly high. It is not enough for Bosnia to prove that some people will be offended or that the religious text contains problematic passages. I think that they have to engage with this. The second argument then on religious minorities in Europe. Bosnia's policies is just proportionally unfair to the most vulnerable actors in the debate, Muslims in Europe. 500,000 Syrians fled to the continent after a brutal genocide. They're in a completely foreign place. They don't speak the local language and they live in poverty. Now the first thing they hear is that they can't pray in the direction of Mecca or wear a hijab in public, all within the context of a climate where they call them terrorists who don't deserve a shot at a better life. How are they affected? 3 things. First, in the connection to home. Immigrants are already experiencing an imposition of a foreign culture. Their name, activities, and communities are no longer their own. In Bosnia's world without hijabs, burqas, and niqab, they strip Muslims of their remaining safety and comfort. 2, legal reasons for discrimination. Xenophobia is now backed by a legal system exacerbated by pre-existing prejudice. No Muslims can be legally targeted for wearing their homely clothes or hum a religious song on the street. You can verbally attack for wearing a burqa and you would be absolutely right. Before the third point, is there a POI?
Or disappointed if your dream was to be a politician, but you couldn't participate religion in the countries, for example, Christian with your Muslim.
A simple response to that POI, I can just say that I Like, I thank God for America, not necessarily to be a Christian. I don't think that's a requirement. But even if it is, I don't understand why the life of a super politician who is incredibly rich is more important than migrants in Syria and now are in France. The right reason they are affected is because the state explicitly feeds rejection. The state pushes the narrative that it's not acceptable to use religion accessories in public. The idea is more likely to become normalized. Therefore, more people target Muslims because now they're backed up by the state. 3 pieces of weight on why these religious minorities are the most important actors in the debate. First, vulnerability. They're in a foreign and unwelcoming environment. This means that the pain that they suffer is augmented by their condition. This doesn't happen with other populations, like for example, atheists or the citizens in general. 2, the degree of affectation. Legal targeting or harassment in the street is higher than being offended because you saw a cross. Third, certainty. It's uncertain how many people will be affected by seeing a cross or a hijab, but we know Muslims will certainly be affected by the use of a hijab or voting discrimination. This also applies to the rest of our case, where we know the importance of religious liberty. This case is pretty simple. If you believe that religion expression is important for people, and we've already proven that, you have to vote for Team Peru. You have to be standing in the right side. Thank you very much.
Let's welcome the second speaker for the proposition.
Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Well, basically, it all comes down to one question. What is the state and what is its role in the society? How so? Well, why were the states created? States were created because of the social contract, because we saw that we needed a state in order to function properly. Does that mean that we will sacrifice something? Does that mean that we will lose something in order to function as best as we can? Yes, it means that. How is determined the role of a state? The role of the state is determined by its compass, by its highest good. What is the highest good? Well, we need to get in the context. The context of the motion is Western liberal democracies. Is the freedom of expression the highest good that one state of Western liberal democracy has? No, it isn't. Why? Because freedom of expression has been deteriorated. How so? Well, I don't now have a freedom of expression to invalidate someone's importance or anything like that, because that is because the higher priority is the security and the well-being of the society in the first place. No, thank you. No, thank you. So the highest good of one society, which is the well-being of a society, which will be actually gained by equality of the given society in that country, then that's the highest priority, and everything will be according to that highest priority. So basically, we need to ensure the security and the well-being of the people at the minimal cost. Will the costs exist? Yes. So the state, as a Western liberal democracy, does not share the same highest good as, for example, Saudi Arabia. And it's normal for Saudi Arabia to have their laws and deeds according to the Sharia law, for example. But for Western liberal democracies, highest commandment of those countries, highest law of those countries is to ensure security and well-being of people at the minimal cost. Example maybe, thank you, COVID-19. For example, we all face that pandemic. Was our freedom in a way endangered? Yes, because we needed to wear masks. Whether we believe that masks would protect us or not, we needed to wear them. Why? Because of the higher good. What was the higher good? It was the safety and well-being of people. So if we prove that by strict state secularism, by these prohibitions, that we will actually achieve the highest good, we are actually doing what the Western liberal democracy would do. No, thank you. And this motion does pass. So basically, our three stakeholders this speech will be divided into explaining how this benefits our three stakeholders. Yes?
No, to bypass this case, we need to live under a dictatorship where we're forced to be Christians. You can criticize religion in a war. Half of the religions, they don't understand why the ultimate good is just banning people from expressing themselves.
No, that's not true, and I will explain that. Thank you for the point, however. We will now go through 3 stakeholders, and later on we will go through rebuttal of what we have heard from the opposition. Well, the first stakeholder is religious community. We have divided religious and faith, and the opposition has presented the faith as dependence on symbols, which couldn't be further from the truth. Actually, to be a Muslim, there are 5 pillars of Islam. Those are faith, prayer, which is preferable to be done in mosque or private, according to Quran. Therefore, giving, fasting, and pilgrimage to Mecca. We know, and you know as well, that those 5 pillars of Islam are not affected by the strict state secularism, and we are extremely proud because by that we have actually gained the goal that the minimal costs are made. Actually, we are not causing damage to those people who are Muslim. Also, when it comes to the Christians, when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and the street corners to be seen by men. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Therefore, we believe that religions will be protected. How? Because they will be protected by politics. How so? Because their autonomy will be guarded. How? Because there will be no need for compromise to be done. When politics intertwine with religion, then there are reasons for compromises, there are reasons for threatening and conditions. That happened in Res Concordat in 1933 when the Catholic Church, when Catholic Church actually made a compromise, and it for its believers to gain some benefits, but it approved the Holocaust that happened in Germany. So therefore, we believe, that religion's autonomy will be guarded through strict state secularism because it will not be intertwined with politics. Therefore, its authority as well. Using religious, how religion can lose its authority when it comes to the opposition side of the house. How? Because religious identity has been used to define national identity, such as in India. Religious differences have been used as a fuel to start conflicts, such as in Bosnia and Herzegovina. There have been multiple critics because of the corruption that happens when religion and politics are intertwined, such as in Mexico in the 20th century. The second point is that we will protect religion from each other. How so? No, thank you. By providing just laws. What are just laws? Just laws are the ones that are most preferable for that country. How do we ensure that we have just laws? That's very complicated. John Rawls explained that, a philosopher explained that. How so? Because a person who decides what just laws are, that person has to have a veil of ignorance before themselves, which means that they must be unaware of their social, financial, or any other status that could actually influence their decision when it comes to deciding what is justice. So we believe that just laws will be provided by the strict state secularism. Why? Because, for example, if Catholics were the lawmakers, they would have abortion laws. If Jews were, no thank you, the Sabbath wouldn't be a working day. So imagine, for example, Catholics and Muslims in our country. And Catholics do successfully pursue abortion laws when, for example, in some years Muslims are the majority and they have the democratic apparatus, and now Sharia law can be the main one. So we need to ensure that the laws are just for everyone. How so? Because the laws maker will be completely unaware of any group or social framing. So how does this motion actually affect non-believers positively in on our side of the house? Well, because it ensures freedom from religious influence. They won't feel underrepresented because Jewish politicians do work in the name of the Jews. Christian politicians do represent themselves in the name of the Christians, and atheists, yes, they may feel underrepresented. They might feel pressure to conform to other religions. Also, policies and laws, they apply to all. However, they are mostly influenced in the secular states, which are present in the side of the opposition. They are influenced by religious communities. However, they apply to all. Therefore, we believe that this would be beneficial for non-believers as well. Also, we will ensure a neutral education system. When it comes to the government would do its job properly. What does it mean? It means that we ensure the well-being of a society in order that it's secure and in order that they reach the equality, which is actually the imperative of Western liberal democracies. When it comes to the points that were made by the opposition, express who you really are, faith, your beliefs wouldn't be influenced on our side of the house. So how can you be sure that this will not endanger faith? You can be sure by the things that we have named, because faith wouldn't be influenced, because faith isn't determined by symbols
you have. Maybe your will for certain social acceptance or social appearance will be influenced, but actually that will actually benefit your faith because it wouldn't be dependent on those factors anymore. Also, identity. Right now, if you are fighting so much for identity, identity is being harmed by on your side of the house. How so? Because if I'm in a secular, namely secular country who did have abortion laws and I want to do abortion, I'm not allowed. So why? Because the Christian community, for example, has influenced those abortion laws to exist in the first place. So my identity, my choice is now under the danger. Thank you.
Okay, we thank the second proposition speaker for her speech. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the second speaker for the opposition.
I'll start in my next word. This speech will consist of two parts. Firstly, divide the debate so far into clashes, how religion has been characterized and the impact that it actually has on individuals. And secondly, I will introduce our third and last argument, that is basically radicalization of religion, especially in the US. In regards to the clashes, firstly, how religion is bad. Team proposition basically states that religion is bad because it prevents discourse by saying that it opposes abortion or that it opposes some scientific research, and basically that now it is massively being used in politics as a narrative, right? However, clearly that is an argument that is also applicable to just freedom of speech in general. If you're going to ban people who oppose abortion, you would pretty much be banning all of Republicans, right? All of the right, all of the conservatives. We think that that is intrinsically against democracy, that is increasingly against freedom of speech, and they haven't particularly proved, but just asserted the fact that it is intrinsically bad to show an opposing view in a controversial topic. Furthermore, it has also been asserted that politics is heavily influenced by religion. We believe that, no thank you, we believe that by its characterization of an increasing amount of agnostic people, it is pretty intuitive to think that religion is not like somehow taking over the government. Also, we need to be really careful in regards to the phrasing of this motion. It states support strict state secularism. We're parting from a place in which Western liberal democracies, by the name liberal, they are already secular. Like, the state is not controlled by religious fanatics, right? So once again, we don't understand what the delta of their argument is. Moreover, it also doesn't make much sense that they, even if that were to be the case, that they would have any type of impact, right? If someone truly was really like this religious fanatic and they just wanted to support things because that's what God says, they can just change the narrative. They can say that instead of supporting something because God says it, they're supporting it because it's a tradition of family, or they're supporting it because it's what the nation's heart is all about. Like, we really don't get why suddenly not being able to show symbols suddenly changes the mindset of people. We think that the only real delta they have is that now they change the level of freedom that people have to express identity historically in public spaces, right? Now, in regards to why the other mechanisms they have given, basically they have justified this religion being bad by once more saying that people feel alienated. Moreover, we have explained why that is not the case. We have stated why people have the freedom of choice of deciding whether they agree with a religion, whether they take part of it. So once more, they really don't have any type of harm in regards to religion being expressed. Now, we have given 5 mechanisms as to why religion is so crucial for someone's identity, and hence the metric for banning it in public spaces and its disposal should be extremely high. Let me just repeat them. Firstly, because it's showing how history of persecution was not enough to silence people, right? We believe that there have historically been, there have historically been attempts to eradicate religion, kind of like what Team Proposition is starting to do right now with their symbols. And this is just a symbol, and that's representing how that attempt failed. Accepted.
Do you believe that religious group in some other religions
I think that people do feel more accepted if their law is not prohibiting them from being themselves. I think that that statement is kind of the same as saying, what if the law prohibits gay people from kissing in public? What difference does it make? Certainly it makes a difference for you to know that your state is not actively against you, to know that you are free to express yourself. There has been no direct harm to others proven by your side. Therefore, the only action you're truly making is restricting people from proving their religion, restricting people from actually being loyal to the holy text that they respect so much, restricting the degree of of loyalty that they can have to their testaments. Like when we stated that you are limiting significantly the capacity of someone to praise their God and to worship in public, which by the way, there are multiple religions that literally have certain time periods before eating that they have to praise them. You're literally going against the fundamental activities of that religion, and hence it's extrinsically wrong, right? Now, in regards to why it's illegitimate, basically the burden of proof was to explain why it hurts people. It hasn't been explained. We have explained why it's crucial for people to keep it, so that point stands. And then in regards to the degree of affectation, we have explained why Muslims are disproportionately affected. So once more, we think that you're not only discriminating people, but you're doing it to a group of people that are already discriminating in that context, right? We think that the connection they have with home is something that they cannot control if they're running away from a war or they're just simply looking for better opportunities. We think it's extremely illegitimate and immoral to just further push pressure for them to feel alienated, right? We also think that this is likely going to increase the amount of, for instance, police violence, right? Because now you can just claim that, oh, they were wearing a hijab, and so I was just trying to intervene, right? There's literally legal basis as to which people can justify having abrupt responses because they were based on seeing that the law was being broken, accepted.
Okay, so are you applying that allowing LGBTQ plus people to kiss in public without resolving any underlying questions or issues will make them feel more accepted and more equally treated in public?
Firstly, yes. I think that just because some people oppose someone doesn't mean that you're justified to deny them the right. I think it shouldn't be legal for gay people to kiss in Texas just because it might upset lots of people. I think that's pretty intuitive, right? And also, it's just an assertion that many people oppose religion. What has religion done to these people? We think that no one has a huge incentive to oppose religion if they're not being actively hurt by it. Now, in regards to our last argument, that is how it's radicalization of religion. The thesis of this argument is that the average belief of Christians, especially in the US, are going to be more likely to become radicalized in Prop's world. In the status quo, there are already existing radical groups, such as the ones pushed by Alex Jones, or like conspiranoid groups like QAnon, right? They usually promote narratives such as that the left is trying to get rid of Christianity, or that the woke mob has infiltrated the deep state and they're trying to indoctrinate our children with lesbian dance theory while eradicating traditional Christian values, right? We think that the reasons why they aren't so effective in the status quo in recruiting people is that their ideas are basically seen like fear-mongering by most religious conservatives because they don't materialize in the actual world. However, in propositions world, they actually do, right? Because now they have legislation passed that is literally restricting the rights of people to show their religion publicly. We think that this can easily be tergiversed and it can easily be interpreted as what it is, that it's just persecution of a religion based on pretty much not any justification given by Proposition C, right? So basically this is going to result in more people being radicalized and driven into these groups that basically significantly increases the chances of religious people believing these narratives because they are manifested in the real world and hence joining these groups that are likely to become kind of echo chambers because they're going to be perceived as the only groups that are willing to fight for their rights to exercise their religious identity publicly, right? But these echo chambers are likely going to blame someone for the fact that policies like this have passed that are against their religion. And sadly, these groups usually already blame minorities for this, right? So we think that basically this is going to impact in three main ways. The first one is that there's going to be an increase in harmful behavior towards minorities. This can basically be seen like hate crimes being committed by religious people who are blaming minorities for voting for candidates who are pushing legislation against them, right? For instance, bullying in public schools, and now parents of minorities being less likely to send their kids to public schools, which just increases the level of segregation they already experience, like insults, hostile behavior, and constant microaggressions. Secondly, that more extremist policies are going to be passed because firstly, there are more followers of radical groups who are going to vote for these candidates, but secondly, these candidates are going to perceive that it's more popular for them to push these narratives that are more radical because people are more likely to believe them. And thirdly, there's going to be loss of access of religion for people who are more neutral, who are more moderate, religiously speaking, right? Because they're going to face a hostile environment and you're basically just destroying the level of security and of peace that is supposed to be shown through religion. So not only is Team Proposition proposing proposing a policy that is actively against the identity of individuals, they're not really justifying it, and hence it's not only illegitimate but simply immoral. Thank you. Proud to oppose.
Can I have a second to organize my papers?
Okay, thank you. Please welcome the third speaker for the proposition.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely proud to stand on the side of proposition today on this motion. I will start by rebuttaling the opposition's case today by firstly pointing out let's say first, foundation of their case. They're saying that they defend the status quo and meanwhile respect religious liberties. I will show through various examples how this is a contradiction in itself. How is this a contradiction? In today's world, you cannot defend the status quo and respect religious liberties at the same time, because in today's secular Western liberal democracies, not all religious liberties are respected. Because one, most secular Western liberal democracies have a state religion, which proves that not all religions and not all religious communities are treated equally in this specific state. Second of all, most secular liberal democracies fund religious education, but in reality they cannot fund all religious schools and all religious communities, because it connects to the main trends that we pointed out in our characterization. There is a rising number of atheistic and agnostic people. There is an increasing number of religious communities that differ from the major communities already strongly established. No, thank you. And there is also a great division between the established religions, so a great number of denominations. So there is not possibly a way for a secular state to defend and to fund and to give money to all religious schools, all religious denominations, and all the religious communities. Therefore, they are basically picking which ones they would fund, which ones they would protect the most, which is, again, not respecting all religious liberties. And also, they are, most secular states in the modern world, in the liberal democracies, just a second, are directly funding religious communities, directly funding churches, which I already explained why, in reality, there is not a possible way for a single country to fund all churches and all denominations. So, on our side of the house, secularism is a great way to operate in a highly cohesive society that is not very diverse, but however, in real life, we see that highly diverse societies cannot keep up with the idea of respecting all liberal democracies in the way that the secularism proposes it. So that's why we propose strict state secularism, yes.
So, because the state cannot respect all of liberties, you're going to make it respect even less?
No. That is a very good question. So, we are not saying that by banning a state religion, by banning religious funding, and by banning funding of religious schools, that we are not respecting any religion. We are doing exactly the opposite. So, because I already explained why, in the modern world of Western liberal democracies, there is no way for them to equally treat every liberal democracy, then we have to give an equal starting point to each of one of them, regardless of how many maybe believers they have, or regardless of the historical context. So that is why, as a speaker of proposition already explained, we can make a correlation between our approach and the wearing of masks in coronavirus. So by wearing masks, we did not hinder the privacy, or we did not hinder people's way to express themselves or to, I don't know, show their face in public to greet. We were just protecting them because of a greater good. So in this specific case, we are not hindering the development or respectance of religions. We are just giving each and one of them an equal starting point because, as I already said, in nowadays Western liberal democracies, they cannot possibly keep up with all denominations, all religions, and the rising number of agnostic and atheist people. I also want to point out that, no thank you, that the opposition today is oversimplifying our narrative, saying that we are banning religion from, I don't know, from the state, from the public space. What we are doing, we already made a clear difference between religion and faith. So, religion is a personal set of institutional system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. Meanwhile, faith is a stronger, unshakable belief in God or divinity without proof or evidence. What does this mean? Yes, we have to differentiate religious practices from politics and from public space, because why is it bad that religion mixes with politics? We have seen through various historical examples that whenever religion mixes with politics, it has a bad outcome on both stakeholders. Intertwining religion and politics often leads to compromises of core beliefs of religions. We have an example where this happened in 1933 when the Catholic Church signed the Reichskonkordat with the German state, with which it gained a guarantee of certain rights for its believers, but it made a compromise not to react to some oppressive behaviors by the government or some anti-Semitic behaviors. So what does this mean? The same way that religion affects politics when they mix. For example, we give the example of embryonic stem cell research or abortion laws. In the same way, politics can compromise the core beliefs, no thank you, the core beliefs of one religion. So it is very important that we differentiate religion as an institutionalized set of practices from politics. But we are in no case we're in no case banning faith from the community that we are proposing, because on our side of the house, faith is a very important part of the world that we live in. And how is this valid? It's valid because we have proven through our argumentation line that in order to show faith, there is no distinct correlation between showing visual representations of your religion in public. Was that a minute or the end? 1 minute. Okay, thank you. There is also one very significant clash of where does the sense of equality come from. We have offered the question to the speaker of Peru, asking if we allow LGBTQ+ people to kiss in public without resolving any underlying issues, would they feel more represented and more equally treated in society? The answer was yes, which is very, very untrue, because if we allow LGBTQ+ people to kiss in public, while we still systematically discriminate them in all other spheres of society, they will not feel any more respected, and the same goes for religious minorities. If we do not fix the underlying problems of liberal democracies having a state religion and funding only certain religious schools, only certain churches, we have not fixed anything. Thank you.
we now move on to the third speech for the opposition. Please welcome the opposition.
Panel, the debate is very clear. In a world in which religions are different and in which religions can coexist with each other, we must prioritize the liberty of people over an unexistent guarantees of safety that is not given at all by the team of government. I will divide my speech into three main parts. First of all, I'll accurately characterize how the status quo looks like and how their world looks like so that we are not debating in completely parallel worlds. Second, I will prove to you each of the four clashes in this debate, and I will prove to you how we win each single one of them. And third, I will weigh the most important clashes in this debate and the most important actors in order to prove to you further how we win. Now, the first point in the status quo versus opposition government's world. We believe that in the status quo, nations sure have some tendencies towards supporting certain religions, but we don't believe that this is institutionalized. What do I mean by that? Literally, the Constitution of the United States guarantees that there is no direct religion linked to the state. Literally, lots of constitutions already have this in their direct states. What they are doing is actually imposing a way in which the state has a tool to use against other religions to directly put a bar, decline. And if you want to, and in state secularism, we are not silencing all people from all religion, not allowing them to show their symbols, because we believe that secularism is fundamentally the division of the church and the state, which means that the church cannot directly influence the state. The Pope is not writing the laws. That is what secularism is. That is what we're actually defending. Now, what they are defending is silencing these people by taking away their symbols, which are a significant part of their religion. But even if it weren't to be necessary, which we have already given significant examples of which it is fundamental to their religion, we are proving to you how it is a right of these people. So now that we have clarified what the comparative in the debate actually is, I will prove to you each clash and how we are winning them. There are four main clashes in this debate. First, the integration of minorities and their comfort. Second, how religion materializes in the state. Third, the equality of all of these religions. And fourth, what is the burden that the state needs to have in order to justify limiting the freedom of people, because that is what it is. Government needs to bite that bullet. The first point in integration of minorities / their comfort. They mentioned two key points in this: not feeling alienated and not being further alienated by showing your culture. Now, in not feeling alienated because other people show their religion, we've already clearly proven to you how someone being Christian and someone being Muslim doesn't mean that they directly hate each other or that they directly clash with each other. They can coexist with these different ideologies without harming each other, because the Quran doesn't tell you to directly hate Christians and the Bible does not tell you to hate Muslims. These two ideologies can coexist, and hence they can feel in an environment together and work together. Now, they also mentioned this idea of further alienation. When a Muslim girl wears a hijab, she is being vulnerable to other people saying things to her. Does that mean she should hide her identity? Because there are homophobic people, does that mean gay people should not be allowed to express their identity? That's absolutely not how it works, panel. They have a choice to show who they are, and society should mold to that. Accept that. They should create a cohesion in society in order to work together, not to each alienate who they are in order for that to create some kind of cohesion in which you pretend to be different in order to be accepted. And even if that were something to be desirable, the people themselves can decide that. That is what is fundamental about our democracies and about liberty. That if a person wants to be a basic non-identity person, just be plain and accepted by everyone, they can do so, but they also have the right to express who they are. The state does not get to make that decision for them based on some comfort that is not directly given. We have already proved to you how the vulneration of a girl not wearing her hijab in school or being told that is wrong is directly harming her self-perception of her identity. Allowing her to have that comfort is directly important from the moment that they themselves agree that there is already a vulneration being made to these minorities. This comfort is more important than some idea of acceptance that is not clearly characterized. Now, the second point is how religion materializes in law. They mentioned that you cannot be a politician if you are non-religious, and how religion is fully controlling basically the state or having a significant push in this. We believe that you can be a non-religious politician because there are multiple incentives of the people apart from religion. There's a lot of policies that they are still willing to support that are non-religious at all. But secondly, we also believe that religion is already intertwined with politics, not directly because of the Bible telling you you need to support the right wing or you need to support the left wing, but because religion is a part of people's identity. It's unrealistic to claim that people's religion will not be accepted, or that the bigotry being presented by some people based on religion will just simply stop existing because you put a way of doing it. Like Trump, for example, his Muslim ban is not based on saying Muslims can't enter the nation, it's based on saying countries in the Middle East cannot come to the USA. So even when you put your law, the only thing you're doing is validating the narratives that leads to these propositions in the first place, and after doing that, they're still able to do so legally. So it makes absolutely no sense how you are removing this from the status quo. Now, the third point is on equality. They mentioned this idea that because the state cannot give everyone equal support, then no one deserves it at all. 3 points to rebut this panel. First of all, the state's help is not coercive. We believe that in states that are even religious, like England, for example, you still have the choice to not pray when the classroom is praying entirely because you are not part of that religion. We believe that that help is not throwing Bibles at kids and telling them you have to be religious. It is giving them an education funded on that and giving parents an opportunity to give them a religious education if they so choose to do that. So we believe that this help is not directly coercive, so I don't see how it's this harm of directly pulling one religion above another. But secondly, we believe that it's not good to treat everyone, because we cannot treat everyone the same. We will treat them all equally but badly. That is not how it works, panel. It's like saying because in New York everyone can't have the same healthcare as people in Texas, then there's no healthcare for anyone. That makes absolutely no sense. What we should do is actually give the benefits we can to the communities we can, which are the communities that have a major presence in the state, and the other ones can still be presenting their ideals, can still talk about their ideals to other people, actually express them in public without it being seen as a violation of the literal law. And therefore, we believe that this is important for people. But even if we were to support this, we believe that it's grounded in a non-real equality and non-possible equality. Because if you believe that all religions must be represented equally, have the same amount of followers, have the same benefits in order to exist, it makes absolutely no sense how you're going to achieve it in your world. Silencing people is a choice, and you are making it based on not being able to give some certain benefits to people. Now, the fourth point is what actually needs to occur to justify this measure taking place in a state. They mentioned the example of COVID that limits significantly the liberty of people in order to guarantee safety. Two key differences to this example. First of all, it's the literal livelihood of people. If you get a virus, you can literally die. I don't see how seeing David's star will kill me. And secondly, it's scientifically proven. There's a direct correlation between catching COVID and dying. I don't see how directly seeing a symbol of religion will harm me in that way directly, or that is effectively proven. What I can effectively prove is that if a girl who has her identity literally stripped from her in a country in which she's already treated badly and marginalized, that will affect her self-perception. And that to me is more important than any supposed principle of integration that can be given to them, that should be a choice made by them. So, panel, how is the debate seen as a whole in this final minute? We believe that the threshold in order to justify such a bad measure is to give it to be necessary in order for A, livelihood of people to exist, or B, liberty of expression to exist. From the moment that we mentioned to you that these people can coexist and that there are people that are being already marginalized and undervalued by a system, and you are oppressing them even further, we don't see how this threshold is being given at all, and therefore we are winning the debate. Thanks.
reply speeches. Order is reversed. Opposition goes first, then proposition. 4 minutes are allocated. No points of information are allowed, so there will simply be one clap after 3 minutes, so we'll be going 1 minute left and double clap after 4 minutes. So, opposition goes first. Please welcome the reply speaker from Peru.
This debate can be summed up in one simple clash, basically identity and the impact on society. Let's assume team proposition and take it in their best case and explain why even in their best case scenario, they're losing this round. Basically, their impact was that there will be cohesion and less discrimination based on the premise and the assertion that religious symbols are necessarily going to go against security, right? Thus their explanation that there's a social construct that guarantees security, implying that the fact that you show a symbol is necessarily going against the security of individuals, no mechanization given. Well, we believe that even if that were be the case, there has been no rebuttals in regards to our whole argument about how radicalization in religious groups occur, right? We believe that the fact that these groups are going to feel targeted, are going to feel like they're being persecuted, and therefore are going to be likelier to join radical groups that result on them actually doing actions that go against security of minorities, that is actually going to make there to be less cohesion and more discrimination in society, right? That would actually be going against the social contract, but that is an impact that would happen in propositions world. Moreover, we think that there has been absolutely no way as to why cohesion matters more than identity in the first place, right? We have not only given 5 mechanisms as to why identity is particularly manifested through symbols. Firstly, a history of persecution and showing that you couldn't be erased. Secondly, that it's a fundamental element for the followers to continue and to expand their preaching, like for instance, like Jehovah's Witnesses. Thirdly, that it's literally the meaning of their life. So it's exteriorizing the purpose and hence like manifesting the way in which they view life. Fourthly, that it's giving them hope. So it's something that makes them feel safe when they are around that symbol. And fifthly, because it is a way of feeling like you're close to a community, which was particularly important, especially for Muslims who are in literally another country or another continent, right? By the way, an argument that once more was completely ignored by team proposition. We think that all of this, that means that there's necessarily a link between the symbols and identity, means that now we are basically facing an attack towards the identity of people. We have also given 5 reasons as to why identity is so important. Firstly, because people can't escape it. You cannot escape who you are. We think that it's pretty intuitive. People who are gay and in a place that is homophobic, it would be so easy to just say, oh, if you could actually stop being gay, you would, because obviously you don't want to be beaten or you don't want to be insulted every single day of your life, right? If you just feel like a God exists and you have been raised that way and you truly believe and you can feel their presence, we don't think it's as simple as to say, oh, well, just pretend you don't. Oh, well, just pray in your house. We think that if you want to limit the identity and the freedom of someone to that extent, you need to prove why their identity is not important and why it necessarily harms another person, because there has been no direct link as to why someone praying on the street is going to make another person cry or another person feel attacked. We believe that there is nothing wrong with people doing that, and also the fact that people can't help but believe in that God. They literally they feel like their meaning of life is attached to it, so it's part of who they are. Secondly, yeah, it's their purpose of life, it's their mission. We think that identity once more is so important because it shapes the lens through which people act, and therefore it's a huge part of their life. Thirdly, because it is a way of honoring your history and honoring the message of strength that your ancestors fought for, right? Fifthly, because we think that it is a way of manifesting your family and your community. It is a way in which you can feel safe in your own body. You don't feel like you are someone who's trying to pretend something else or like you're in disguise, but that you can truly be free. And the only response that we get from team proposition to all of this argumentation is basically that if you cannot guarantee the same level of security to identity of individuals, then you shouldn't guarantee it at all. We made a POI evidence in that point, and then we brought it again in third speech, and there was still no POIs defending it or no real response. We believe that the fact that some liberties cannot be fulfilled to 100% is in no way justifying fulfilling them to less than what is already in the status quo. Because we have proven that identity is so important and that it is necessarily being broken in team's proposition world, we believe that it is extremely immoral and simply shouldn't be pursued. Thank you, proud to oppose.
Okay, and now to conclude the debate, we welcome the reply speaker from the proposition.
Okay, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Firstly, we will start by taking a look at the world that is created, that is the status quo that is proposed by today's opposition. First of all, what has the opposition done? All that they have done is mischaracterization of 3 things. They have mischaracterized status quo, they have mischaracterized religious people, and they have mischaracterized non-religious people, which were our main stakeholders. How have they mischaracterized the status quo? Because basically what they have stated is that the status quo corresponds to the constitution. That couldn't be farther from the truth. We all know that constitution is not the status quo. Status quo is the reality. And the reality was presented in the characterization by today's government. How? Because today's secularism simply does not work. Maybe on paper, yes. But if laws are made, maybe not institutionally and officially, but if laws are even by any chance influenced by religious communities that are the most dominant in those places, then we believe that that secularism does not work and that does not benefit anyone. Later on, they have mischaracterized religious people. How? Because they had a superficial mischaracterization of their identity. They have stated basically that symbols are my identity. If I forget to put my cross this morning when I woke up, and I forgot to put my cross, then I'm not a Christian. I do not respect the history of Christianity. I do not belong to the community of Christians. And simply, as they have said, symbol is the meaning of my life. The meaning of my life is not my Christian God because I haven't put my cross on. Basically, symbol does not correspond with identity. My beliefs, yes, they do correspond by identity. Are they persecuted by the strict state secularism? No. Okay. Later on, they basically made an assumption that religious people would feel secured or equal if they could put religious symbols on themselves, if they could wear religious symbols publicly. That couldn't be further from the truth. Why? Because if I'm living in the country whose laws are mainly influenced by some religious community that's dominant in the country that I live, but I still can wear my Hindu symbol or anything, do I really feel that welcome? Do I really feel equal? Do I really feel listened to? No, I do not. I do not even care anymore for my symbol. Why? Because I'm living in a country that is dominated by a real religious group whose laws do not even go accordance in the way I want to live my life. What have they also said? They said that a boy and a girl will have a clash because of the hijab and because of the cross. They said that we have said that. No, we haven't said that. Why is the prohibition of religious symbols in public necessary? It is necessary because it corresponds with the definition of strict state secularism. And why strict state secularism necessary? Because we have proven that it is indeed beneficial for both religious people and non-religious people, and that it shows one extremely important thing. It shows that the third stakeholder, government, does its job fundamentally right. How so? Because they have a priority of equality of people above the freedom of expression, which may at some time be deteriorated. Later on, they have mischaracterized non-religious people. How so? Because they said they do not care. Non-religious people do not care about the affairs that are among the religious communities. That's not true. Why? Because in the status quo, we can see that we are all influenced, whether we believe it or not. As in COVID-19, we are influenced by it because that laws that are made that are influenced by religious communities apply to everyone. Also, you have said that equality. You have stated, tried to state that equality is actually gained in secularism because in the one British classroom, people may choose not to pray, and that proves nothing. Also, when it comes to LGBTQ example, first of all, that does not stand. Why? Because if we came to a conclusion that kissing is harmful, which I doubt we will come to that conclusion, but if we came to that conclusion, that would be conclusion for everyone, but in the purpose of a higher aim, which is the well-being of a society. So basically, in our world, we can reach that. We can reach the equality of one society, which means the well-being of a society, and that's why I've never been prouder to propose strict state secularism.